Well, welcome back to Redeemer Kids Online, and we're going to get going with another story about Paul today. But before we do that, I thought it'd be good to talk about the weather. As British people, we love talking about the weather. We love it when it's sunny, but then it can be too hot, can't it? We love it when it's snowy, it looks so beautiful, but then it can be too cold or slippy. And we love it sometimes, the gardens particularly, when it's rainy. Or maybe sometimes you like it when it's stormy too. But storms can be scary, can't they? Storms can be really, really scary and wet and cold and frightening. And today we have a story about a storm. So Paul, let's tell you where he is on the journey so far. Paul, he's been working around, he's been going through the villages and the towns and the cities, even different countries, telling people the good news. And lots of people have come to be followers of Jesus because of it. But some people didn't like that. And one time, Paul got back to Jerusalem, and some of the religious leaders, they decided they were going to stir up the people, and they had ended up getting Paul arrested for a crime he hadn't done. So Paul was put in jail, he was locked up. But he was sent off to a place called Caesarea, there to see King Agrippa. But there, while he was there, he said, I want to go and see the emperor. I'm a Roman citizen, I demand to go to Rome. Now, it's a long way from Caesarea to Rome in Italy. You've got to go across the Mediterranean Sea. So what you need is a boat. Not just any boat, but a big boat. In fact, this boat had to hold 276 people. There was the sailors who crewed the boat, but then there was a centurion and soldiers that were looking after the prisoners to make sure none of them escaped or did anything. They made sure, they charted, they looked at the weather, they made sure that there was not going to be any bad rain or storms or anything else like that along the way. And they set off along the Mediterranean, and the way they did it, they went on the boat, they had their big boat and they were all on it, they put the sails up and they went from one port to the next port round the edges of the Mediterranean, and they eventually ended up at a port called Fair Havens on Cyprus. And there Paul said, we need to stay here for the winter, because any time now the storms of the winter are gonna start coming. And if the storms of the winter come, then this boat and all the people in it are in real danger. It could be terrible. But Julius, the centurion on board, he didn't trust Paul, and instead he did what the captain said, which was to go on to try and make it further down towards Italy. It started off a gentle breeze, and so they got the boat and they set off on their trip. But it wasn't long before a huge storm started, and the waves were crashing over the boat and the wind was howling and it was getting terrible. Everybody, including the sailors, were fearing for their lives. The storm was absolutely horrendous. It was really terrible, and they didn't know what to do. They absolutely feared for their lives. They started and they got all of the stuff on board. They got all of the goods and all of the cargo, and they threw it overboard. They got rid of that completely. That was on about the first day, and still the storm was raging. Things were getting completely and utterly panicky for all the people. By day 3, they even started getting any tools and things that they had on board that they could get rid of, and they got rid of all the things they could think of. They even got rid of any of the spare ropes they didn't need, and they threw that overboard as well. Things were getting really bad. By now, they'd been in this horrendous storm for 14 days. 14 days. Then there was a tiny lull. Paul went to the people and he said, you don't need to worry. I've had a message from the angel of God, and he said, your ship is going to get destroyed, but not a single person will die. We just need to trust in God. I trust in God. You just need to trust in God too. they carried on. The storm was so frightening, so incredibly intense. It was unbelievable. But then, an amazing thing happened. The sailors realised that they were nearing land. It was getting quite dark by this time. So they put the anchors down and they waited till morning. And then when the morning came, even though the storm was still there and things were still bad, they could see land ahead. Paul got all the people and he said, you've got to eat something. It's been so long since we've eaten anything. And he got some bread and he broke it and he gave thanks to God for what God was just about to do. So they set off towards the shore and they were doing really well. They cut the anchors, they were off on their way to the shore, but then the boat, rather than going onto the beach, it crashed into a sandbank. It was stuck there and all the waves and the wind were howling because of the storm, and it was getting so bad that the boat was starting to break up. Bits of wood were falling off, people were screaming, it was terrible. But Paul trusted God. All the people were charged with getting off the boat, commanded to get off the boat. If they could swim for shore, they had to swim. If they couldn't, they had to grab hold of a plank or anything that was floating that had fallen off the boat. And it happened just as Paul said. Even though there'd been this horrific, terrible storm, God had seen them through. And do you know what? In life, we all face storms. We all have things that go wrong. Even at the moment, things are not great for a lot of us, are they? But Jesus, even in his parable, to the wise and foolish builder said, build your house on the rock, build your house upon me, trust in me, read your Bible. And then if there are storms in life, then you too can get through them. I hope you've enjoyed the story. I'm going to go in a second to dry off, but I've got one job first. There's going to be a challenge for you at the end of the day, and the challenge is this. Every week we have a challenge, don't we? And the challenge this time is what you've got to do is you've got to take this cup of water and very simply drink it. But you've got to keep your arm outstretched. So all you can do is do this, and you've got to make sure your mum and dad are happy you're doing this first, and maybe be outside and maybe not in your best clothes. See if you can drink any of the water. I really wasn't good at that. So maybe you too are going to have a stormy time, but God can see you through. Hope you've had a great time with this. I hope you have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Keep